for the cutlass or the saber, what makes it the best sword to fight naval battles?
I think it's a question for James.
Hi, I sailed on tall ships for 10 years. I'm the guy who has to answer all those questions. Congratulations, you were the 5,000th person to ask me that. Yay, everyone clap for you. Yay. It is a good question. I'm being facetious, but also true. Yeah, so the thing that makes short, heavy weapons on boats easier to use is that sailors historically were not trained all that well how to use swords. There's a lot of accounts of American and English sailors specifically. They're being given a cutlass which has some sort of basket on it, because we all learned pretty quickly that once you can do that, people lose their hand less often. And when you're a sailor, you really need your hands. As soon as you lose a hand, you're not really useful on the boat anymore. And so there's a lot of accounts of them just punching people with the basket. I will demonstrate this with someone who's definitely wearing a mask right this French guy who's using a Scottish bicycle for some ungodly reason is boarded my vessel. And there's also, this is the world's deadliest mosh pit. We're both surrounded by people with no room to move. I can do basically this, but I want to make more distance, so I go, oh no, a Frenchman. And then he comes back and I go, oh no, a Frenchman. Oh no, a Frenchman. And then I eventually remember that I have a sword. And I go, oh! And then he's down. There's actually a very interesting treatise from the War of 1812 by this Canadian guy named William Pringle Green. And his entire thing is Henry Angelo the Younger has this whole cutlass exercise for the Royal Navy. It's mostly a prestige thing for the Angelo family because they're Italians who moved to London and they teach all the aristocrats. And our boy Pringle is this is too complicated. seven cuts, 7 parries? No, this is too complicated for sailors. A thrust, dear God, why would you do that on a boat? Which also is a bad idea to do that on a boat. Because if I thrust on a boat, if I thrust Mitch on a boat and I steered him, then one of his buddies comes up and kills me. And then that's a bad time for me specifically. And I don't want that to happen. And so all of Pringle Green's stuff is literally just, I don't move my feet, I'm about this far away, I see it come in, all of his stuff is just, He has an off-cam thing, that is pretty cool, but I won't do that, that's the worst.
Oh, okay. Yeah, more questions. There. Kevin's going to take over there.
Yes, sir. For the next question, I think I kind of really forgot to mention one of the most important part is how do you get started with this? We have flyers. I know all of you might not necessarily be in the Seattle area, right? So again, this is going to start with your martial arts. So if you want to get started with anything like this, I suggest you go to the Key Mountain Finder. Got flyers here, you guys want it. This is for our post specifically, but again, I'm sure you guys are not all in the Seattle area. So just look up the Hemo Finder on Google and then search for fucking your area to get started with this. Yeah, our club Lonin, we're like 10 minutes away from the convention center, so we're pretty close. So
We're
if you
in
have any.
Soto, by the Soto light rail station.
So close to light rail.
Yeah. So again, if you're in Seattle, feel free to pick up a
We're
flyer.
a non-profit, volunteer operated. I'm on the board of directors. I have no ulterior motive for telling you all of this. Give us money, please, so we can keep doing this.
So I just wanted to ask, for this way under, because of the ripple, the shape of the blade, how do you sharpen it if it gets damaged?
With difficulty.
Yeah.
Yeah, Flannery's blades are hard to sharpen. That's about it. Kevin, there's one more question in that corner.
So, a little bit of a long question, but if I got the timing of everything right, it went arming sword, long sword, saber kind of appeared in all of that, rapier, and then, saber continued while long sword, arming sword, etc. didn't. What was the reason that the saber persisted longest for everything else?
Let him answer.
Because people people don't have taste.
Excuse me, sir, I will end you. So the reason that the saber persists is that it's easy to make, and literally every culture in the world that could make a sword made one. There's no definitive timeline for the invention of the saber. It appears in various forms throughout all of history, even into so I'm Chinese. We have sabers that are extant from 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. We also developed the first basket. Take that, Eric. Beat you. And so everyone made a saber, whether it was a straight-bladed saber, which was single-edged. The Greeks were all over that. And so they're just everywhere. The thing that made the saber persist is not only its ease of make and use, production and use, it just became so associated with the cavalry. And everyone wanted to be a cavalry officer. All of the infantry officers wanted to look like cavalry officers. All of the noble people wanted to look like cavalry officers. Even as, well into classical history. And then for a hot second, everyone wanted to be an artillery officer, and then they were like, no, it's too loud. We like horses more. And so it went back to being cavalry officers. Even then, in the artillery, they were still given sabers, because they were generally the only people who, if they had a bayonet charge, most everybody would be like, oh, screw that. We're going to bring from over here to shoot you. Artillery guys, no, they fought hand to hand. I hauled this gun all the way over here. My horses are dead. I'm not hauling it back. So that's why the saber persists.
Yeah. No, that's good. Pass it off to Kevin. Question. Bam. We're working our way this way, so we'll go you, then you. Did I skip you?
So, on the topic of horses, I believe it was mentioned earlier something about the use or disuse of a saber from horseback and the advantages and pros and cons, depending on if you're mounted or dismounted. In contemporary HEMA usage, in this historical recreation and the martial art of it, is there any use of horses either in exhibition or competition? Obviously, there are no horses here today, but...
So the answer is sort of. I think there's at least one small group of people here in the U.S. who do it. There's a small group in Europe. The thing about horses is that they're expensive. If you hit one with a sword, whether it's sharp or not, the horse doesn't like that. And those horses have to be trained specifically for that. And so it's extremely, extremely expensive, and we're all poor nerds.
The closest thing you get to that you see commonly is the jousting crews that roam around.
Yeah.
And they are doing some legit stuff, and some legitimate recreation of sport from back then. And some of those guys also do practice some sort of stuff from horseback, but you don't see it there's no sparring from horseback in the U.S. for them because it's really dangerous for both the people and the horses. We have some really cool stuff in some of the early longsword books, from Fiore de Libre, where it shows wrestling from horseback, which is a thing that we see in a lot of Central Asian cultures and other places too. But again, we don't do it that often. Even there, they've changed the rules, so you're not allowed to throw the horse anymore because it's bad for the horses and the people on them. So it's just harder to recreate. It costs a lot more money. The risk of injury is a lot higher, so you don't see it nearly as much. We all kind of wish it, except for me, because I'm kind of scared of horses.
And the other thing that so swords are labor efficiency devices. They make your job of horribly ending someone's existence easier. And anyone who says otherwise is kind of kidding themselves. That's why they were made. Horses, cavalry, also labor efficiency devices. You don't need to put as much force into something if you have a several thousand-pound animal. And so all it really takes, even if we do sparring from horseback, all it takes is a horse to lean the wrong way. And then Mitchell and I have a broken collarbone. Or the sword is broken and we accidentally stab somebody with a horse. And so I think there's some pseudo dressage stuff where they pass each other and go clang, 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 but it's all very choreographed. It's all very legit, but also, like Mitchell was saying, the risk of injury is so ludicrously high. Good question. Yeah.
Kevin, here. Oh, no, fine, whatever, you can go.
So you mentioned something about tournaments and competitions. What do the rules, what's a general idea of the rules of these competitions? Are they standardized?
No, they are not. So again, yeah, so there's a lot of different rule sets around, and they mostly vary. Like, people have kind of settled on their like favorite versions. Most of them are longsword tournaments. They all kind of play out in a similar way, where there's somebody in the middle who's in charge of safety and like directing what the judges say. There are judges on the outside who tell the guy in the middle where the people got hit. So you'll come in, you'll do a thing, somebody will get hit, judge will yell point, director will yell halt, everybody will stop, go back to their corners. They argue for like between 30 seconds to 10 minutes about what happened, and then they give you points for it.
We can just illustrate on the stage. Or-
Yeah, we can show that. One thing is like point differentials happen sometimes. So some people will give you more points for hitting the head, some people give you more points for thrusting, some people will give you the same amount of points for everything. It's not consistent. We're all like, HEMA is all volunteership, so like, you can always read the rules before you show up at the tournament, because they might have something weird in there you can exploit or that's scary. But there's lots of them to go on. You can check out HEMA Scorecard, is a website that has a whole bunch of tournaments on it. HEMA events, the HEMA website that Kevin has on the flyer also has an events page where you can go check stuff out there. That's kind of that. Hopefully, does that answer the question?
Format-wise, usually what's going to happen is there's going to be one person who directs learning, and there is either one or up to one or three other judges to help with it. There will be one person at a computer table that documents everything. So just for like, let's just do like 2 changes. I'll be the director, and James will just help me call like what happens. So people will typically be pretty far out of measure. Because we talk about ring size is really dependent on the rule set. But typically what's going to happen is whenever someone gets hit, one person will call points, and whenever a point's called, the director will call halts. Halt can be called for anything, your purposes, like if something functions or like there's like some sort of injury. Halt's just like that kind of stop keyword. Or here. So, yeah, so, fighters ready?
Ready.
Fence! Right, halt!
Touch blue.
Okay.
So this is where,
Touch more blue, not touch
person at the computer was, scored 1 point. So, where did you see it?
hit on the mask, so blue's touch.
Yeah, so depending on the rule set, it might just be 1 point value or 3 point value for the target. Right, and then we'll move on to the next section. Okay, fighters ready?
Ready.
Fence! Halt!
Thrust from black on blue.
Yep. And then a match.
And you do that until the points go even. Sometimes if you get hit and then if you hit someone, then they hit you. Some places will subtract points, some places will say no points at all, and some places will do other stuff. It's complicated. Read the rules of the tournament before you go to one.
Exactly. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I'll add something on it real quick. So at HEMA, we have fighting in tournaments. That's really awesome. We have people who study the text, like look at the art, look at how things were described back there, do translations. There's all kinds of things you can do in HEMA. In like Olympic fencing, a lot of the rules are like, you only have private way, only hit certain areas. Our rules in our tournaments are mainly just to keep people safe, and as long as you don't hit back of the head or don't hit a foot or don't like use too much control, you basically do whatever you want, like hit them wherever. So it's really fun to think about, they've got steel, I've got steel, how do I safely hit them and not get hit? Rule 1 is not get hit, rule 2 is then hit the other person.
It's also a really big difference in philosophies. Depending on the tournament you go to, who's putting it on, there's going to be a very drastic change in philosophy from one tournament to the other. For example, like there's a skirmishing association that is mostly single-handed sword work, where it's very confined. You keep the back foot planted. All of your action is from a lunge, slip, and any footwork in between. It's very confined because we want it to be readable by someone who doesn't know anything about swords. Other competition rule sets are much more complicated. Others are much more freeform, and some of that is the philosophy of the club that's putting it on. Some of it's the philosophy of the fencers who develop the rule set. Some of that is, all of that is like hinged on safety. But there's a 1,000 ways to shave a cat. There's only a few that kill it. You don't want to kill the cat, so that's what you're kind of going for.
Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Okay.
Hi. I was wondering if you could shed some light on the mindset that goes on during fencing. because obviously, because of the nature of sparring and tournaments, the fights are going to look kind of messy and a little confusing from an outside perspective. So I was wondering if you could demonstrate the mentality behind things like feints and second and third intention attacks.
Another question. So, have you played any fighting games before? So, there's a lot of overlap with fighting games. So, fuzzy is neutral. Have you ever heard of those terms? That's kind of what you have here. So, we have a lot of people here, but I can just kind of go over some stuff too. So the first thing I'm going to go over is just like your stances or your guards, right? The next kind of to go over these things, but like, actually, why don't I just have to showcase you guys? There's too much to take on talk. All right, so if you just perspective of the offensive, right? So you can kind of see that likely his swords are going to come downward at some angle and slightly to the left side, right? So as a fencer, that's the right information that I have, right? So also the defending depending on his position, right? So when you saw me, they'll kind of curve. I'm a very mobile guy. It's just a very mobile guy. So a lot of the times we're just kind of seeing like in terms of like the tempo, whether we can cast them like right here like this, and then just he's off foot and he'll go in, right? So a lot of the feints are going to be from like body. So you see like body position, and I'm taking between where it feels like I'm not paying attention in that particular moment. You can go. A lot of it is, again, from where you can attack from. So I take a long guard position. Right? So this is kind of scary, right? Because all Mitchell has to do, right, you can just do a flush. Right? So, like, from the perspective of someone here, I have to kind of deal with that first, right? And that's a very scary thing to deal with. So, like, I might have to kind of just like probe it, right? From the outside, just see if I can kind of get him to move. So, if I'm moving my sword very slightly and then it's just like, oh, that's real time, I might have to just kind of put back off as well. To kind of depending on that. Or someone's very cutty, right? I don't have, you kind of pretend you're a artist. So here, like you see, like there's a lot more movement, right? So you might have to like pick the timing between, right? And the thing is also weight classes exist, right? So if, like, say you have someone like cast a little bit more, like, smaller in stature, if you're saying like she's fighting like maybe takes a little bit bigger, you might want to play that out game. You generally play two streets, right? So, like for example, Josh is like on the slightly shorter side, so he's fighting someone really tall. He'll hold it, really stay away and only really go in when he can. Hope that answers your question.
So I was wondering, you all have referenced a couple, centuries-old theoretical practical texts on sword fighting, but since, for the past 150 years, sword fighting has become significantly less of it doesn't have the role it used to have in, military and civilian life. Where is that world now? Like, are there still people in the past 100 years who are writing about this kind of stuff and, looking at sword fighting as theory?
As theory? I wouldn't say that like any of some of the later, all the medieval stuff is dead, like well and true. So like anything, like when we're talking like longsword and arming sword, messer or other weapons from that early and like late medieval period, it stopped being practiced. Like longswords stuck around for a long time as like a civilian dueling weapon. It was like the coolest kid on the block who'd like beat people up and show that you're mad at German dudes or whatever, and the whole thing. But the actual practice and use of it as like a weapon totally fell out of favor. And we see that with like the development of these sorts of things. Kind of one would replace the other. A lot of that stuff that's happening now is like anthropological or archaeological or like recreations. These are what we would call like experimental archaeologists and stuff who are like practicing this. And it's pretty much about researching the past. Because there's no practical way for me to carry some of these things around today. And there's no reason for me to. In truth, sword fighting is at this point a novelty. There's not, like, there are a lot of us who are out there trying to do it, to the absolute best of our abilities, but not to apply it to our daily life, but to be good at it as its own thing. So it's kind of become like a lot of weapon martial arts, kind of a pursuit in and of itself. So that's why we invent the sport to go with it. Because there's not like foil fencing fell off as well in terms of like small swords. So Olympic fencing comes from actual dueling traditions, and we changed those into sports because again there wasn't a reason to duel anymore. The laws against it, customs changed over time. If you saw someone wearing a small sword walking down the street, you'd be worried about them. It would be weird, but we kept it on as sport and as a thing that people get very, very good at in and of itself for kind of the joy of it. That's kind of my opinion on it, is that it isn't, we're all doing our best to make the best working sword play that we can. There's not a practical use for it. It's just rad. Anybody else have thoughts? Kat?
It's a great workout, it's a great community to be in, and honestly, swords are fucking cool.
Swords are fucking
cool.
Yeah, and I would say also, there's a lot of other weapon martial arts out there that's like, you see a lot of like Kenjutsu stuff or like Chinese martial arts stuff where they have a lot of forms, right? But it's really hard to actually apply those forms because they don't have like a culture in which you have the particular equipment and you're actually able to spar, right? And even with like Olympic fencing, a lot of the weapons are not actually representative of what they were in the past. So it's only in the last decade where there's enough interest in this where the economy of actually using the weapons to be safe for fencing, like I think probably around like mid-2010s. So it's a really, really kind of niche sport. I hope that helps. Here.
So before my question, I just wanted to say that as someone who's in the Spanish major class you guys have, I really appreciated the demo. I thought it was cool as hell. Love you guys. But my question is like, how did you end up finding most of these old texts and manuals and stuff? Because like, my friend told me in Chicago's Art Museum, there's like one for this guy's. I don't remember the guy's name, some Dutch guy. But I wonder how you find this stuff in the end.
Really dedicated people who are very kind and put it online. A lot of these books are in either museum or private collections. So Fury Delivery is my primary like area of study. He's a dude who wrote a book in like 1407, long time ago. He wrote 4 manuscripts. They're all the same book, but they're all one of a kind. One of them, nobody outside of the family that owns it has like seen it in person in a really long time. But they let someone come in. But they made, at some point there was a facsimile made of it, a copy made of it, and that is what we like work off of pictures of. I wish I had more on this. I need to go talk to Michael Chittister more. If you're interested, go find what's his. Does anyone remember what his blog's called? What? Yeah, Wigton Hour. Go check out the Wigton Hour. There's a bunch of books on there for free that people have put on the internet. That's Wiki and then 10 Hour, which is not very helpful to any of you if you don't like spell in German. People were very kind. Museums let people take scans and put them up on the internet, and from there we can work on it. People work with those museums to publish facsimiles, copies, and translations of these things. Those of us who do the clang bit owe a lot to the academic community, who has worked very, very hard to make this information more available to all of us. Because it's rare and hard to see, and the books are old. Like the odds of a book from 13 whatever making it to the modern age are very small, and it did not make it without some kid drawing mustaches on it. So like, it's really cool, and we owe a great debt to academia.
Thank you very much.
So I actually have 3 questions. Okay, so first one, with the cape and rapier method, would you ever like use the cape as an improvised flail of sorts?
So a lot of what we do is like on close spectator, like we're fencing like with clothes on, maybe a gamut, so we don't have armor. So like something with the cape, there is a lot of inertia behind it to like do damage. The weapon, the hard steel can do stuff. You can do tons of things with your cape. You can throw it at them, you can hide stuff. That won't really do any damage. Like when you think of a sword that's like a flaming sword, fire doesn't do any damage. It's the cutting, piercing of the steel that will impact pain if it gets right in your arm or your hand.
There also were there's a lot of record of cloaks that had rocks sewn into them. Not only to help the drape and the look of it, but like you could just like bludgeon a guy. Be like, just put it in the hem of your cloak, and you're just walking around and be like, oh, you brigand, and you throw it, and then they're like, oh god, and then you run away.
Yeah. There's no reason not to be sneaky.
Yeah.
Question 2, of these you presented, which ones would you most want to use against someone with an axe?
I would rather shoot them.
Yeah.
You only have the Nerf guns.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
I would probably use the Montante as a spear.
He's not wrong. I think he's correct on that. It depends on the kind of axe too. If it's a little shorty axe, then like this guy's easy squeezy, nice and long.
Really, so the thing about axes is that they're really ineffective at actually like being one-on-one weapons. Because if you miss, you have to arrest the momentum, which is just not economic for the body.
Yeah.
So like if I take if I'm going to use this like an axe, which this is the thing that they did in armored combat, but this is not great. Like I guess I can kind of keep doing that, but I don't have a ton of reach with it. I guess I can do that. Then I have to like deal with also the fact that this is a little bendy for a sword. But like axes in general, it's also why boarding axes. Everyone's like, oh my god, a boarding axe! They will obviously hit people with it. Like as an improvised weapon, they're actually mostly so you can cut things away and get into places.
I'll say axes, kick-ass offhand weapon.
They are
really
great
hooky, so you can poke things out of the way and then stab stuff. It's hard to do.
Yeah, and so really and this is also talked about in a lot of naval, like the French used boarding axes up like well into the 19th century. There's a lot of Englishmen and Americans who were like, oh cool, that guy's got an axe, and they just kind of step back a little bit as the guy swings and then stab him. Yeah, because you just go like whiff, okay, cool. Next one. Assuming that you're not like punching him in the face already with your basket, as is tradition. So yeah, is that?
Yeah.
So kind of any of them.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Final question: how much does it cost to get into HEMA? Because like I imagine the protective gear, I imagine not cheap.
So if you want to just show up and start doing stuff, if you can pay for Lonin, we have enough Lonin gear that you can just start doing.
You too, for $72 a month, can come to Lonin, which is the cheapest gym dues that you'll pretty much find for anything.
Talking about you guys specifically.
I know you're not talking about it. It's a good commercial. It depends on the club you're working with. If you want to assemble a full set of like tournament kit, just speaking about longsword specifically, tournament kit, for your own use and purpose, probably what, like $1,000 to $1,200, something like that.
I don't want to think about how much money it is.
It's annoying. We don't like how much money it is. We try, but like it is not cheap.
I'll say for every single one of my swords has been at least $300.
Yes.
My nicest ones are like $800 or $900.
And the worst part about it is that the swords are sadly disposable.
Yeah.
If you're using them regularly, they have like a 2 to 5 year lifespan, and then they are not safe to use or they open.
Yes, I was beginning of class, I did mention the thing that you need is a part first. So, and foam swords, like our club, really, like the majority of the time, we do practice with foam swords just because the sheer number of people, there's no way economically we can get like a kit for everybody. So, basically when we start off, it's really just, you have a neck protector and a helmet. Helmet, when you're about like, I think on average right now is like 90-ish.
It's like 90 to 400.
Yeah, the neck protector maybe is 30. So foam swords can be like 50-ish. So if you just want super bare minimum to start, from there, and once you do it a bit, right, then you can say, okay, do I actually want to jump into this rabbit hole and spend like a few $100 more to do it?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's pretty reasonable to just jump in.
And the more friends you have who do it, the more likely they are to have hand-me-downs.
Yes.
Yeah, I stole Kevin's microphone. Well, either way.
So you're seeing quite a lot of metal around each other. Are injuries common? So what kind of injuries?
Awesome question. Mostly like general sports injuries, so like twisted ankles, busted knees, stuff like that when you're jumping around a whole bunch. Lots of bruises. Yeah, the worst things you get are like broken fingers and stuff. Suck a lot.
Don't grab swords that are coming at you. Don't grab a sword with your hand.
Yeah.
But pain is an excellent teacher, though, I will say that.
We do everything we can to keep our partners safe and ourselves safe, but this is high contact combat sport, so you're going to get bruises, you're going to be sore, but we do everything we can to make sure we stay safe so we can keep stabbing our friends for many years to come.
And I'll say the vast majority of injuries, like ankles,
here, but we're going to a lot more flexible swords. Some of like the more older ones have less flex, so when you get hit in the mask sometimes, call it when it's a waffle, so like the blade kind of like eats at your face and you get like a nice like pattern on your forehead.
Next question.
Oh, sorry.
Hello, I was just on the HEMA shop looking at weapons, and for the most part, you can get some polyurethane weapons for $40 to $100. However, I did come across my preferred weapon type, which is the polearm. Woo! And the heads and the butts are sold there. However, there are no poles. So, as far as poles, what would be a recommended material to use?
Hickory or ash dowel is great. If you can get it in octagon, even better. If you can't, go buy it in square. And then, like, if you get yourself a game plane, take down side. Hickory or ash. Hickory is probably your first bet, and then work your way to ash. Yeah, also, just like with Montante, there's not a sparring safe pole arm out there. If it's of actual weight, so be nice to people with this. They're scary.
Hey, yeah, so when it comes to HEMA, I can see a lot of the same sort of weapons showing up a lot, like long swords and sabers and stuff. Is that just because there are manuals for those things and not necessarily like other types of weapons? Or is it also just sort of like, how do we actually do this and not kill each other for real?
It's a little bit of both. There's a lot of long sword manuals because it's cool, and people thought it was cool for a really long time. So that's one reason. Like the EDF tradition that Kat was talking about during Sword Buckler, when she was talking about the Gutenberg. No, thank you. There's like 14 different books from that tradition over the span of like 400 years. So like a lot of stuff. We also think also. So like that sticks around for a long time. So part of it is personal preference, part of it is what we have material on, and part of it is choice. Because again, like we have some Montante books, we can't like fight with them. And what was the last bit? Like same thing like ballers. Not super safe to do. That said, if you want to do some of that stuff, you can look into some of the full contact arm fighting stuff, so you can look at like bow curves and things. A lot of great wrestlers in that, a lot of fun hits. They take a lot more punishment than we do, and it's a little more expensive to assemble the kit because you got to get full armor. But they're great, and so you can check them out too.
Also, like, arming swords and long swords, that's actually surprisingly not too different in weight. So the fact that you can use two hands means you use a lot more energy, you can go for a lot longer. And you could make it, right? So, we were mentioning, I think Dave was mentioning strength and depth. There is also a kind of minimum strength requirement right here. It's like within 800, having your arm out for like something that's like almost 30 pounds. It's tiring, really is. Yeah, let's do it.
Does anyone want to do a little bit of mixed weapons sparring?
Yeah. What are the weapons?
All right, take it back.
Take it back. Do we ask the crowd for weapons to use again?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, what do you think is gonna make us look this stupid? You had a question though.
If anyone wants a flyer for us specifically for Seattle, come over to Phil here. All right, so
Do you have any opinions about mixed weapon sparring, or are you just gonna watch us do it?
Just do it.
all right, how about I talk to you guys? I want to see a long sword versus sword butler.
All right, good sword butler.
really like this matchup, so I wanted to do it. You notice that Josh has a lot of reach on Kat with this, so that long sword can really keep her out. What Kat needs to do is get in range with the arming sword, and Bucko's going to help out with that. So she can come along, bind on the sword, and transfer to the Bucko, and then come in with a cut like that while wrapping up Josh's arms. These are the kind of things that you want to see. Makes it sound easy, but it's really not. Especially if Josh is playing a point of your game, he's really able to kind of box Kat out and keep her from being able to find that area that she needs to score this. It's a great example.
So we're at 28. I think we can do one more combination before we wrap up.
Okay, we're gonna do that really quick while the rapier saber people set up. The rapier and saber, there's a bunch of books about it. It's fun. Josh, you wanna grab a saber and take a fight more? Just So what you should see here is I should get my hand destroyed while Josh does it.
All right, let's do the rapier now. All right, this will be our last exchanges.
Feel free to find us anywhere else and talk to us about swords if you like it.
Mm-hmm. Looking at you, she folks, come to us.
That one right there?
This is gonna suck for me.
Believe in you, James.
Thank you.
All right, let's do 3 passes.
I don't believe in me.
I'll tell you, James.
Kite.
You see David for James' offhand there. That would not basically disable, but it would hurt real quick and bad. James trying to close through that long range again. This is the thing we see a lot with long versus shorter weapons. Nice! Wait! Okay, stand up again. You can see him trying to chase down and close that range.
One more! Stop being so tall. No.